has been for the past few years a very terrible time for Kaduna State, especially through local government. That's where I'm from. I'm from the Adara tribe in Kajuru local government, and the attacks we've been talking about since we started this webinar has been in Kajuru and Kachia local governments. And my tribe, the Adara tribe, we span between these two local governments. We're found, those are our two major local governments. So the suppression is really bad. And I have first-hand experience since in 2019 when I met Didi, thankfully. Because when my dad was locked up with the other elders, every time we spoke up about it, they would tell us to keep quiet. I personally have uncles who worked with the government at the time, who came to my house crying that the government was threatening them to lose their jobs, that they would lose their jobs if they couldn't make me to keep quiet. And it made me want to dig more because I didn't understand why my post, I'm nobody, I don't work with the government, I'm just Alheri. So that was when it dawned on me that they really didn't want these things to be said at all. But I have to say that whatever it is we thought we faced during Erufai's time, on the topic of suppression of the news, it can't be compared to what we're facing now. It was bad then, it's worse now. Because now, you're not even allowed to give out statistics. So imagine me now, I have a family member, maybe my child, my sibling, my parent is kidnapped. I'm not allowed to come to the social media to say, oh, my mother was kidnapped or my sister was kidnapped without a government official calling me to say, oh no, if you put it on social media, we're not going to help the people. And that's something I want to talk about today because it's a very serious issue. If you talk about the killings, because it's not your direct family member, right? So for example, an attack happens in Kachia local government and I go to Facebook and I post that in a particular village, an attack happened. They reach out to the victims and tell the victims that if they agree to what Alheri wrote, they will not be helped in securing the lives and properties of their village, and the government is not going to help in rescuing their loved ones in the village. And then so it puts me in a situation where I could be arrested for false news, because if I'm arrested and the victims I'm talking about come online to say, oh, that never happened, then what happens to me? So it has put a lot of people who usually speak out to be very careful. But then my colleague, Ruben Buhari, he's a journalist, he's fearless. I think he's more fearless than all of us. So when Kurumin Wali happened, what Didi was talking about, where they kidnapped a number of people, it happened on a Sunday and we heard about it. But like I said, because of what I just explained, we're very careful because they're on us, especially because they've targeted us as the ones who speak out. So we're very careful in what we put out so we don't get arrested. So we did not talk about it or post about it, even though we knew about it on Sunday, because you have to allow the victims themselves to talk about it and you share it. Because if they get to them and they deny it happened, and then you're put, I mean, that's what happened to Audu Mekori too, when he was arrested years ago. So we didn't talk about it. And then we kept waiting because the villagers we spoke to, the village chief, the youth leader, the victims who were able to escape, they were very hurt, very angry, very ready to talk. And so we were very confident that this one wasn't going to be put under the carpet because the people were angry. And then we waited Sunday night, Monday, and then we still didn't hear anything about it. And Ruben tried to go there himself to get people to talk directly. And then soldiers stopped him and said nobody was allowed to go there. As a journalist, he's an on-ground journalist. So he took a bike. He has videos up on his wall, Ruben Buhari, if you check on Facebook, where he had to take a bike and sneak into the community. And he was able to ascertain for certain himself that something like that happened and was able to video a few victims talking. And to our greatest shock, the chairman of the local government, who the victims had told us that they gave him a list of those that were kidnapped, went online and went to the government house. He and the commissioner of police now said nothing like that happened. And here is what interests me when they talk. They don't just say, oh, nothing happened. They say we are going to arrest and deal with anybody caught spreading false news. And so it's like a double injury. You're hurt, you're not allowed to talk about it, and then you're being threatened. If you talk about it, you're going to suffer the consequences of speaking about it. And apparently, we found out later, the reason why on Sunday and Monday, early Monday, the villagers did not talk. A few news agencies went there, but the villagers refused to talk. It was later when the video of the chairman who promised them that if they don't talk, the government will do something about rescuing their people. They now saw the video of him in front of the government house with the police commissioner saying nothing like that happened. That's when the villagers got upset and realized they were being tricked. That's when they started talking and allowed people to video them. And that's when it went viral. So immediately it went viral. And this is why they don't want it going viral. Because once it went viral at that point, the first confirmation we even had was from the police headquarters in Abuja, not Kaduna State. So imagine the cover-up that over 70 people will be kidnapped in a small village at a time, in one night, in a day, because they were in church. 3 churches attacked at the same time. And imagine that it took a few days for Abuja to confirm it. Nobody in Kaduna was willing to talk about it. And I don't know what the governor or the state government tells our politicians, tells the newspaper agents. I'm really disappointed in our journalists who are on the ground. Because as a journalist, I would think your first duty is to say the truth. Nobody's saying say lies or distort facts. No. Say the truth about what you see. Even if you go to a village and there's soldiers there and they tell you you can't access the village, that's a story on its own. Then you go out and say, oh, I went to this village that so thing was said to have happened, but the soldiers wouldn't allow me to enter. That story on its own. And the more people talk, the more we get the world's attention, the more people get help. If not that the world took notice, those people, I don't sure, would have been released because they were eventually released. And then the same thing happened in Ariko, in Kachia local government on Easter Sunday, when 37 people were kidnapped in church. And then the army brought out a statement saying they had rescued them. Ruben Buhari, again, my colleague, took it upon himself to, do his research, and then he posted. Because once you have your proof, you post it. But even with having your proof, you have to be constantly on your toes. Because after what he posted was posted, he got called by the army, actually, and then he had to go and explain, and they were explaining. They even released a statement after the meeting they had with Ruben Buhari and some elders in the community. So here's what they're trying to say. They're trying to say, and that's the same thing they did with Kurume Wali, that when they said rescued, they meant the people that were able to run away and hide. And that's ridiculous. We all know what a rescue means. So it's ridiculous that we're being told what rescue means. And they're saying that when they said a rescue, they meant that if they hadn't arrived when they arrived, after the terrorists had gone, that if they hadn't arrived when they arrived, the terrorists probably would have gone with more people. Because they're coming, they shot guns in the air, the noise, 2 things, that the noise probably made the terrorists not carry as many people as they wanted to carry. And then, secondly, sometimes when they're running away into the bush with the people, when they hear the gunshots, some people are able to run away. But there are ways to word that, not to say you rescued them. That is not a rescue. People running away from terrorists and hiding, and then when the soldiers come, they're coming out of hiding. That's not a rescue. And unfortunately for them, yesterday, the terrorists themselves posted on TikTok with the 37 people kidnapped, mostly women and children. There's even a baby, and they've been there, and they're threatening to start shooting them, just like Doug said. They're threatening to start shooting them if they don't pay the ransom. And I heard Doug calling numbers, and let's be very honest, we all don't know the numbers. We can't know the numbers because of how people don't even have access to even report these things. Okay, in Kachia, for example, the Ariko I'm just talking about, the councillor who stood his ground, which is very rare to find a public official representing the people who actually stands for the people. He actually came on TV to say that's not true, that the army rescued anybody. And then he was suspended. So imagine a public official who is supposed to have some form of power being suspended from work. So imagine what the rural people who don't have anything, the only thing they have is hope in your words that, okay, the government is going to do something. So it tells you the level of suppression. And something funny happened yesterday. So there's another village called Alheri in Kachia local government that they too had people abducted. So they released a statement yesterday with a picture that the army had released about the kidnapped victims they rescued from Ariko. And then the Alheri community came out with a statement with a picture saying these people you put as the people you rescued from Ariko are actually the people from our own Alheri that were kidnapped. So imagine the cover-up. I think the 7 people they said they rescued were not from Ariko. They were from Alheri. We didn't even know there was an attack. Let me not say we. I didn't know there was an attack in Alheri till the Alheri people came out to say, oh, the pictures you're posting of the people you rescued in Ariko are actually the people rescued, 7 people that they paid a ransom, I think they said, to get back from the kidnappers. So the cover-up from the army, from the government, it's been so disheartening, to say the least. And yes, we deal directly with the victims, especially when they come out. You know, officially, when you're not allowed to pay a ransom. The government actually threatens families sometimes that if you pay the ransom, you get arrested. So ransom is not something that you openly, although it's so bad now, people actually come out to request for money because you're already at rock bottom. So it doesn't matter to them. They're not afraid of the threat anymore. And the camps are really terrible. Just yesterday, I had to go to Rido to see 3 people who were released after almost 4 months. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 of them were kidnapped from a house in Kasomagani, all from the same house. And they requested for a ransom for all 5 of them. The family paid a ransom. Before then, the family was attacked. This was the 3rd attack on the same family. So they had sold everything they had prior to this one. And they were just trying to build their lives back together. And so they paid the ransom and then they released 1 pregnant woman. They paid a 2nd ransom, nobody was released. They paid a 3rd ransom before these 3 were released. I went to see them yesterday. The other girl couldn't talk. Luckily, they weren't pregnant because normally they come back pregnant. So the girls say they're raped by different men almost every single day. Every time the men have an urge, they pick a girl, they rape the girl consistently. For the men are raped too, actually. Men are raped too. And then there are times where they allow the sun to get really hot and then they make them lie down and then look straight into the sun for as long as they want. And you know how damaging that is. And if you don't leave your eyes open, they beat you so bad. They keep beating you. You have to keep looking at the sun. Or they make the men remove their pants and then make them, most times the terrain in my local government is rocky. So they look for a rock and wait when the sun is really hot. And then, the rock is really hot. And then they make you undress and then they make you sit on it. And if you move from it, you get beaten. There was one who told us how they gathered young kids, less than 10, and made them lie down and open their legs and then undressed. And then they keep hitting their private parts. They just keep hitting it. So the pain begins to get too much that they pass out. And then there are stories, witnesses, victims tell us how a father, when they realize, oh, you're in the camp with your 2 daughters. So they make you watch while your daughters are being raped, while your wife is being raped. And right now we have one of the girls that came yesterday is so traumatized. Today, after this webinar, I have to go see her with a trauma specialist because she's just in a bad shape because of how she was raped consistently every day for almost 4 months. She's a nursing student in Zaria. Her mates graduated while she was in the bush. And they've sold everything they've borrowed. They're up to their necks in debt. They don't even know what to do. So mentally, they're just not in a good headspace. This morning, someone called me and said his 4 kids and his wife are in the bush with the kidnappers. And so one of the men that came back 2 days ago that I went to see yesterday brought a message from the kidnappers that if he doesn't bring 5 million naira, they will start killing his kids. His wife and 4 kids, they're there. That's why I say we don't really know the numbers. The numbers are way more than we think they are because these things happen on a daily basis. But who do the villagers complain to? There's really nobody to complain to. Even the ones that get out, we who are in town are not even allowed to speak about it. And it's very strange for me because even during El Rufai's time that things were bad, El Rufai would still, the government then, Samuel Around would still come out and list names of victims, lists where attack happened. Then we were so upset that they were calling names and not doing anything about it. We felt they were just making announcements. Well, now it's worse because you're not even allowed to make the announcement. So just imagine the trauma people are feeling to have a family member and then the family member is either killed or kidnapped and the government is telling you, oh, they don't exist. You're not allowed to say they exist.